Welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make a maple brown sugar pecan pound cake. So everything you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make the cake part of this. We'll be making a glaze later to go on top of it. But right now you need to preheat your oven to 325 degrees because this bakes for 75 to 80 minutes. Now, some of the things on this counter are going to have to be at room temp for you to use, like the eggs, the buttermilk, the cream cheese, and the butter. So just keep that in mind ahead of time. And we're going to start out by cutting up 1/4 cup of pecans, which we are going to use on the inside of the cake mix. So just go ahead and put them into small pieces. We don't want really large ones in this. And once these are chopped up, we're going to set them to the side till we need them. So just cut them up, set them to the side, and start moving to the next ingredients we're going to use. Now, we're going to start out by spraying the pan that we're going to use to bake this in, just to get it ready ahead of time, which this is a 10-inch bundt pan, which really standard size. Then we're going to move on. We want 1 1/4 cups of room temperature butter. This is unsalted, which basically that's 2.5 sticks. And we're going to beat it with a mixer, and then after we do this for a couple of seconds here, we're going to add in 8 ounces of cream cheese, which is also at room temperature. And we're going to put this on medium and mix it for at least 3 minutes, so that way we chop this up, mix it together, blend it, get it smooth, and that way it's ready to be used. So go ahead and mix this up completely. Along the way you will need to scrape your bowl, so just keep that in mind because this stuff will stick to the sides. So go ahead and keep mixing until you've gotten to your whole 3 minutes. Once you're getting to the point where this is done, it's really light and fluffy, and you can tell just by looking at it. So like I said, scrape the bowl, and then we're going to add into this 1 cup of granulated sugar. And then we're going to mix this a bit. And then after that, we're going to bring in 2 cups of light brown sugar. And we're going to add them a cup at a time. So basically, each one of these things, like the cup of granulated sugar, mix. Then add in the brown sugar, mix. And then add in the rest of the brown sugar and mix again. And we're going to mix this for about 2 to 3 minutes, because we want this to be really light and fluffy and all mixed together, but we really want it smooth. We don't want any grit or anything from the sugar lasting in the bowl, so we just want to keep mixing until it's completely done and mixed through. And then after we get this done, you're going to need 6 eggs at room temperature. And what we're going to have to do is put these eggs in one at a time, and you're going to mix after each one. That way we make sure it gets mixed in really well, but there's a point to this. The more you beat this, the more light and fluffy it's going to get. So go ahead, add an egg, mix, add an egg, and mix until you get all 6 in there. And once we get this completely mixed through, we're going to sit this to the side and work on some other ingredients, which we're going to add this to. So just go ahead and mix this through. Make sure there is no yellow in your bowl as you're doing this, and just keep mixing. The good thing about this pound cake is it is very light tasting. It's not like, dense pound cake that's really not great sometimes. This actually is really light, really decent to eat. It just has a soft texture to it when you do it. But one difference in this is we're going to use cake flour instead of regular flour to use in it. So that's going to add a little bit of a different texture to it. So we are going to, in a large bowl, add 3 cups of cake flour and 1/4 cup of nuts that we already cut up. And then we're going to mix in the wet ingredients that we already had in the other bowl. And we're just going to totally put this all in at once. And then we're going to mix it together a bit until it's really smooth. Now, just a warning, there's a lot here. You're going to need a really large bowl for this. So I'm mixing this by hand a little bit to get it mixed together. And then I'm going to bring in the mixer. And just blend this until everything is really mixed. Now, as we get this mixed together, we're going to bring in some maple to add to this. And we're going to add at least 3 tablespoons of maple because we really want that flavor in here. And then we're going to mix it again. And then we're going to bring in 1/4 cup of buttermilk, which is at room temperature. And we're going to put that in and mix again. Now, once this is all mixed up, it's ready for your bundt pan. So you should have already preheated your oven to 325 degrees. Like I said, this is going to be in there for 75 to 80 minutes. And you can test this like with a skewer or a toothpick or whatever to make sure that it's completely cooked through before you pop it out of the oven and find out the hard way that it's not. So just go ahead and get this all into your bundt pan and smooth it out as much as you can. This is kind of a thick mixture, so if yours is thick when you do this, you're right. It's the way it's supposed to be. And just add in all that you had here, and it's going to put this thing kind of close to the top. And then we're going to put it into the oven and bake it. So once you get everything out, smooth the top of it a bit, so that way at least it comes out smooth that way. And you're ready for this at this point. As long as you don't have a lot of mess to clean up around you, you're good to go. And when this comes back from the oven, it's going to be browned on top, but just check it like I said, do the toothpick test or whatever. Then we're going to put this on top of a wire rack, sit it somewhere and let it cool, so that way it gets some air underneath of it. But this is going to have to cool for way over half an hour or more before we do anything else. But at the same time, we're going to start making the glaze that goes on top. So we're using 1/4 of a cup of unsalted butter, which we're melting over medium heat. And then we're going to add other ingredients to this to make the glaze. So once that's completely broken up and starting to melt really well, we're going to add in 3 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. And then after that, you're going to end up adding 3 tablespoons of maple to this to give it some more flavor. And we're going to totally mix this together, and you're going to bring this to a boil. Now once it starts boiling, you need to boil for at least 1 minute, so that's going to let it set up. Then afterwards, we're going to turn off the heat to this. But once we're done with that, we're adding more to it, because we're still going to bring in some nuts, and we're going to bring in some confectioner sugar to add to it. But we want this to start cooling after it's had that whole minute of boil time. So go ahead and stir it around while it's setting up and doing its thing. Then after this has had its minute, we're going to bring in at least 1/4 of a cup of chopped up nuts to this, which we're going to add in because they're going to go over top of the cake after the glaze is going onto it. And then we're going to add 1/2 cup of confectioner sugar. Now, once we mix this up completely and get everything all mixed through and it doesn't have any white powder left and it's really syrupy looking, this needs to sit for 25 minutes to half an hour or whatever to start to thicken up, because we're going to leave it a little runny when we pour it over top of the cake because you want that, but you don't want it to be like wet like it is right here. So the longer you let it sit, the more it'll thicken up, the more it'll hold onto the cake when you pour it over top. And what's good is it's going to glue these nuts on top and down the side and wherever else it runs when it's going down. But that's what we want. So we have our cooled cake here. We're going to just do this by the spoonful and pour it over top. Now, the more you add to this, the more it's going to build up that layer of sugar around the top and hold onto the nuts and keep going. But it also is supposed to run down the sides, so that way the sides get a coating of the glaze as well. And once it's completely set up, you'll have an even layer all over the whole top of this and partially down the sides, because we don't want the whole side coated with it, but we do want some down through there. So just use up all of this that we already made up and just go over top the whole cake. And then let it cool for a while, because this is going to be kind of warm for a few minutes until it actually starts to cool down. And then you're ready to eat. And the best thing about this is it has such an amazing taste, because this isn't just your typical pound cake. And this is what mine looked like when I was done, and I gotta tell you, this is so good, and I think you're gonna really like this if you give it a try. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website, where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.